Alright, so finally we're here. I've got the heads done. They're ported and polished as far as I'm going to take them. They're sitting right back here. I've got the block finally deburred. That's sitting over to the side here, so all the sharp casting bits are removed from it, so nothing's going to break off in the engine when we're running this thing hard. And I'm starting to get things together to take to the machine shop. Now, my first choice of machine shop, based on recommendation, was unfortunately not able to get to me. He's just completely swamped, which is understandable. One of the best guys supposedly in the area, and so I'm sure he's getting plenty of money from guys building very expensive race cars. So he recommended another guy to me, which he says is doing great as well, so I'm going to him. So I gave him a call, said he'll be able to get me in very soon, so I'm kind of just getting everything together. Hopefully we'll take all this stuff down to his shop this week and he can get working on this build. So I guess that's brings me to what this video is about, which is what am I bringing to the shop. I've never brought stuff to a machine shop before, and I haven't. Probably best to err on the side of caution and bring more than you need. The guy that I'm going to is about 2 hours away in Tampa, so I am going to be doing a bit of driving, but for me that's worth it. So I just want to make sure that I get everything the first time. So let me give you, I got everything on the bench here. Let me give you a quick overview of what I am bringing, and I'll show you what I'm doing. Alright, starting out, we've got all of the parts for the heads. So this is actually the heads and the block. We've got along the sides here. I should start out saying these are actually labeled. So as you can see, I've got a little arrow here drawn, and this says front. So this is to the front of the engine. Everything is referenced to that. So I've got the two camshaft mains. So these are the camshaft bearings. These are what hold the camshaft in position. These are all correctly oriented as far as being turned, as well as in order from front to back. I've got the two camshafts. These are the correct orientation. The cam gears bolt onto the front here. I've got the mains. So these are the main caps that hold the crankshaft into the block. And one of the things you'll notice is that the front, this is the front, and all of these have this little peak in each one of these that's all pointing towards the front of the engine. So you can kind of see it on this one. It's a little further down. Same thing here. So these are actually, the orientations are kind of built into them. So those are all laid out in the correct order. And then over here, these are the head bolts. Won't be reusing these, but I just put them in order anyways so that I've got them. So that's this box. Let me move this out of the way carefully. Next is the crankshaft. I'm not going to bring it up here because it's really heavy, but the crankshaft obviously we're going to need, because they're going to need to check the clearances, set up the bearings and hone the mains, as well as do the balancing. They're going to balance the rotating assembly, so you're going to need that. Speaking of balancing, one of the things that they're going to need to balance is the damper. This is the harmonic balancer, harmonic damper. Not much to look at inside here, but this is all the parts that are going to go onto this damper that they'll need to balance this. So this is the accessory drive essentially. This contains the pulley for the timing belt as well. So this is going to need to be balanced along with the crankshaft and all the other components, so that's why this has got to go along with it. Most engine shops, I mean, they're not going to want to balance your rotating assemblies without having the damper there that you're going to use. Probably don't need them, but I've got the both my ARP head studs and main cap studs, so he's probably not going to need these, but I'm bringing them along anyways. Another thing that's probably a little extra, but I'm doing it anyways, are freeze plugs. On my engine, I pulled the freeze plugs out. Just since I'm rebuilding it, I wanted to make sure that they were fresh. So these are freeze plugs. They're basically just stamped pieces of metal that get pushed into the block. From what I've heard, they call them freeze plugs because if the antifreeze, if the coolant in the engine freezes, these will push out of the block rather than the block itself cracking. Not sure how true that is or how well that actually works, but these are also used to cover up holes that are spots where they remove the core from. So when they do a sand cast, they put a core inside. This is one of the spots that they will use to remove that sand core and help get a cleaner, lighter casting. They can use less metal, make the engine lighter. So I'm going to see if they can go ahead and put these into the block while they've got it, because I don't want to mess it up. Next up, bearings. I've got all these bearings here. These are, I want to say these are the connecting rod bearings. As you can see, you got 2, 4, 6, 8 bearing halves. So these are the shells for the connecting rod bearings. So they have to have these to be able to measure and properly hone the mains and whatnot for that. These are the main bearings. So you've got 2 halves, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, obviously, because there are 5 mains. And last but not least, these guys, which I haven't opened up yet, but these are the thrust bearings. So these are just OEM thrust bearings for use on the crankshaft, where it prevents the crankshaft from moving back and forth. All right, for the head, next we've got the valves. So these are the exhaust valves. I believe these are the Inconel exhaust valves that I got. These are Super Tech. They are 1 millimeter oversized, so new valve seats will need to be cut to allow these valves to seal properly. That's the exhaust. These are the intake. Nothing special. These are essentially just new versions of what is already in the engine. Same size. They're slightly longer for use with aftermarket cams, which I will not be using, but that will all be taken care of by the machine shop when they grind these valves to fit in the head. Along with that, springs. So these are brand new heavy duty springs. These are actually double springs. So this is a whole set. And you can see there's actually a spring inside the spring. Lots more force with these than with the OEM springs. So that's going to help out when we're doing a lot of boost. And that's also going to help out with higher RPM operations. This will prevent the valves from floating, because this will have more force to close those valves while they're running very fast up and down. This will provide extra force to help pull those valves closed, so we're not relying on the softer, weaker OEM springs to do that at higher RPM. Now this set also comes with a set of the valve retainers, and I hope I'm using the right nomenclature here, but there's spring seats and retainers, and these are actually titanium retainers. So this is used by on the top of the spring, and this is what the valve keepers go into, those small little 2-piece bits that hold the stem of the valve in place, and then this goes on the bottom of the spring, and this keeps that stiff spring from eating into the aluminum head. So these pieces all part of this set, so I will be delivering these all together. So on to some even more interesting stuff. These are the Carrillo H-beam rods that I will be using. These are some of the toughest rods you can get for the Miata. I just wanted to kind of go big or go home on these, but these are an H-beam Carrillo rod. As you can see, the profile is like that of an H. They're reportedly extremely strong. There you go. As you can see, they've got their own little multi-point, I think these are like 12-point bolts. So these are all already as a set. So the insides are already honed. You can maybe see there's cross hatching inside of there. So these are already honed, ready to go. But this is part of the balancing is to weigh each end of this rod, each rod, and balance it properly on the rotating assembly. So also they're going to need these to make sure that the bearings fit, to check the clearances for that, as well as just to make sure that everything is fitting properly together in the block. So I'll be delivering these as well. And last but certainly not least, these are the pistons. I was also going to go ahead and bring the head gasket. I have a Camshaft gasket here. This is actually the gasket for the older gens. So this is the, I believe, the 94 through 99, or 94 through 2000 gasket. So this is the one that has all the holes in it. And I believe in 01 to 04 they changed the gasket and they eliminated some of the holes to attempt to fix the issue with the coolant reroute. The reason that the coolant reroute exists is because the head gasket had too many holes, quote unquote, and it had a poor coolant circulation where the coolant would come up, it would cool the first couple cylinders okay, and then it would leave through the head. So it would never get to the rear cylinders. Well, they tried to fix that by removing some of the holes in the front to force that coolant more towards the back. But from what some of the people have said on forums and some testing, it may not work as well as it should, and the reroute is still the recommended method of cooling the engine properly. So I'm probably going to go ahead and get the reroute, and I just went ahead and I bought the old style head gasket. Camshaft gasket, it's aftermarket gasket, so hopefully this will seal well for what I'm trying to do. 40 thousandths, so it's a little thicker than stock, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but that should help out if we have to deck the block and the head any more than the factory specs call for, which I believe is like 1 or 2 thousandths each. I almost forgot an important part of this complete breakfast. One of the things that I probably need to bring here for the shop to work on the valves is going to be the buckets. So this is all the intake and exhaust buckets with the shims on them, labeled from front to back. So yeah, gotta get all these down there too. I almost left these at home. So this is a quick little video here showing some of the work that I did on the head. I lost a bunch of the video that I had of actually doing the work on the head, but this is kind of just a bit to show what actually I was doing, and honestly 90% of those work is exactly this. It's just going at it with a sanding wheel or a small burr and just grinding out bits to smooth out the walls, smooth out the floor. You want to smooth out the ports, smooth out the bowls on the top there where the valves sit. Basically everything is just, it's smooth. All the casting lines are removed. Everything is polished, starting with like maybe around a 120 grit and going up to like a 320 or higher grit, even as high as doing metal polishing work where you're actually using a polish on it and a buffing wheel and actually polishing it to a mirror finish almost, and that just basically keeps the deposits from sticking to the metals there. And on the intake and the exhaust, it keeps things smooth enough that the air can flow through really easily, so that the gases aren't getting turbulent and getting blocked up kind of inside the ports there. It allows a much more free-flowing head. Alright, so I just got to yank this stud off. Going to use the same 2-nut method. So I'm going to screw one of these guys on. This is just a random nut that I found that happens to fit this. Came off one of the other parts of the engine. And this is one of the water pump nuts. So just take these two, snug them against each other, like so. And now using the larger one, should be able to just unscrew. Alright, we're not getting a bite. Let's do a little harder here. Still no bite. Damn. Okay. It's probably... Let me think about that. I'm gonna try to get on here with some voice grips and see if I can't. Hopefully don't without marring the threads. That got it. Dang, it's still on there pretty good. There might be some galling on the back side of this. Okay. Alright, it looks like it might be turning. Yeah, this is still surprisingly tight. Looks like there might be some thread locker in there, so that might be part of the issue of breaking it loose. So I'll go ahead and put some more back on there when I put it in. Yeah, there we go. There we are. So the problem here is that this gasket looks a little, it's really hard. It's also pretty thick. So I've got a razor blade scraper which works really well. The problem is this is aluminum. So if I use this on this casting, I've got to be really careful not to damage the faces. What I'm trying to do is see if I can get the gasket separated from the body. If I can get this to separate away, and then I can wedge that scraper down in there and I can kind of chisel it out. Now I do see what looks like kind of an opening. So on the plus side, there's a small flat right here. And that flat will let me set, you know, this in a flat orientation so that when I go to push on it, I shouldn't gouge, provided that I keep this in line with that piece. So I'm going to give it like a slight downward kind of angle, and I'm just going to gently work it in here, see if we can't get anywhere. Okay, looks like it's doing something. Now the big thing here is if we can get the majority of the gasket to break away, then cleaning the rest of the gasket up is pretty easy. Very careful without cutting my hand off. Try to, and while definitely keeping the scraper level. Just kind of using it to gently just break that seal. So come in here, I'm just going to kind of roll it in and try to maintain that angle that I've got on there. Very carefully. Got another face up here. So I'll kind of go off that face, and I see like a little aluminum shaving where I haven't been careful enough. That's the only downside, is that this is so delicate. So I'm not going to be able to get back in here, so I'm just going to kind of work this off and see if I can't. There we go. And that's good enough. That's about it though. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get all this stuff packed up and see if I can get it ready to go to the machine shop. Now I haven't asked to do any kind of filming there, and honestly there's a lot of videos on YouTube, and I'll actually add some links into the description here of videos that kind of show what goes on in a machine shop. I don't want to bother this guy, he's a busy guy, so I'm just going to bring my stuff there, I'll drop it off, and what I'll do is I'll go through and explain everything that I talked to him about. So he said it's going to take probably around a week of time for him to do it once he has the time and all the parts. So provided I can get it out to him this week, hopefully sometime next week, I'll be going to pick it up. And it may be a little longer. I told him there's no rush because I just want it done right. So I appreciate all you watching. Thanks for checking out all this stuff. I'm excited to finally get this thing moving. So hopefully I'll have some more awesome content coming up soon. Still got to do the radiator. Still got to clean the engine bay. Still got to install an entire fuel system in the car and install and wire up this ECU that I've got. So a lot of work to do. Hopefully once I get the engine back, get the engine together, I can just kind of bag it up, set it aside, and do all the supporting stuff that's got to be done to the car to get it ready to handle this brand new engine. So I'm pumped, I'm excited. Hopefully next couple weeks are going to be pretty cool. So I'll see y'all in the next one, and thanks for watching.